So hi everybody, I'm here with my good friend Doug Towle. That's T-O-W-L-E. That's not towel, it's toll, like for whom the bells toll, like Metallica, like kick butt awesomeness. And speaking of kick butt awesomeness, Doug is a phenomenal guitar player, and I've had the pleasure of playing gigs with Doug on several occasions, and he is not only a shred master, but he's got himself an Eric Clapton tribute band.
Eric Clapton tribute and Santana.
And Santana tribute band. And you also play, what we call it, Nouveau Flamenco guitar.
I do.
So a wide range. What got you interested in becoming a musician in the first place?
Ooh, that's going back 100 years now. What got me really interested is when I was just a kid, I was about 7 years old, I think. My brother gave me an album that he hated.
That he hated?
He hated the album, so he said, here, you have it. And it was the second Queen album.
The second Queen album.
Queen 2.
Yeah.
Before they got really famous, they had the album was all about knights and queens and ogres and all this mystical stuff, and it's phenomenal. It's to this day still one of my favorite albums.
Wow.
And it was Brian May and all of his guitar layering and stuff, and I just at 7 years old I was like, I need to know what's happening here.
Wow.
I got to figure this out. It took a few years for me to start. I started playing when I was 10.
Okay.
And then sat actually with that album and just tried to figure out what was going on.
Wow.
And that's how I got started playing guitar.
Okay, so you're 7 years old. You hear the second Queen album, which your brother thought was garbage.
Yep.
You were mesmerized. You were in love. But you wouldn't start guitar till you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
Now, are you self-taught? Did you take lessons? What was that?
Oh, I took a lot of lessons. Yeah,
Okay.
I started taking lessons when I was 12, actually. When I was 10, I got my first guitar when I was 10, and my parents put me in a group class.
Okay.
And I was in a group class with a bunch of 40-year-olds.
Okay.
And that freaked me out. And I just went, no, I can't do this. So I kind of bailed on that and then just kind of sat in my room and just banged on the thing. Hopefully, I don't know what I was doing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Maybe making it noise. Didn't even know how to tune it. Nothing.
Yeah.
Then it was a cheap Sears model guitar, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was 12, I kind of went, no, I want to get serious about this.
Okay.
Convinced my parents to buy me an electric guitar and started taking lessons at that point. There's a music school close to where we live, and I went through every single guitar teacher they had.
Wow. In a good way or a bad way?
Good way. I think the guys, the first
like you
guys,
just kept getting better and better.
They just keep running out of things to teach me.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So, first guy just said, I got nothing left for you, so I'm going to pass you off to the next guy. And then, that guy did the same thing, and he's like, I'm kind of out of ideas for you, so I pass you off to the next guy. And yeah, learned a lot that way.
Well, it's a similar adventure. Like I started on this crappy guitar my brother's girlfriend at the time gave me.
Mm-hmm.
The action was probably 5 miles off the fretboard.
Yeah.
Right?
Hurts like crazy.
Hurts like crazy, and I got the meanest calluses on my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely play that thing, but I got really solid with that guitar, and my parents saw I was serious. And
well, that's the thing is, as a teacher, like I do a lot of teaching, it's always a struggle trying to get parents to invest in a decent instrument for their kids because nobody wants to spend any real money right away.
No.
But unfortunately, these guitars are horrible to play.
Yeah.
And they hurt.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you and I were there with these horrible guitars hurting our fingers, but it meant so much to us that we would not give up.
Yeah, it's that strange trade-off, right? Because, as a teacher, it's that, well, you want a guitar that's not going to fight you, but that's usually going to cost you more money.
Mm.
But you're not sure yet if your kid's going to stick with it.
Exactly.
So it's that, where's
the balance,
that,
right?
It's that balance, where's that
Right.
middle ground?
And you're not going to spend any money on a cheap guitar to get it playable.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of pointless. So you're kind of stuck with kids learning on these horrible instruments.
Yeah.
And it's the ones that, like us, that just, I don't care how much this hurts, I'm making it work.
Yeah. I had a student once who, dad bought her a flower guitar.
Oh, yeah.
It was shaped like a flower.
Yeah.
It was a very cute guitar, which had the worst action, the worst setup. It was a terrible, terrible guitar. You plugged it in, it sounded awful. And she was so happy to have that flower guitar, and she never practiced.
Yeah. That's always the downside. I mean, I always tell parents, get the kids the guitar that they want, because that's the one they're going to pick up and play.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's a pink guitar, I don't care whether it's a purple guitar, if it's an acoustic, it's an electric. It could be a Hello Kitty guitar. It doesn't really matter. As long as they're happy with it, they'll play it. But, of course, you want to make sure that it's playable.
Playable. Keyword, playable. Yes, very cool. So you're 12 years old. You're going through every single teacher. Then what was the metamorphosis from that point?
It was a bit of a long journey, actually, to become a full-time musician? Oh, it's a long story. Played in bands in high schools, of course, as we all did. Just tons of bands.
Did you go through the metal phase?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I learned to play by learning Iron Maiden records.
Nice. Very difficult.
That was my first. Dave Murray's still one of my favorite guitar players.
Oh, fantastic.
Love him.
Did you have the long hair too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you have pictures?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We might show you.
Yeah.
We might.
You can get those from my wife. She holds them for bribery. Yeah, I had long hair. I did the whole metal thing, and then in high school I was such a prog rock nerd. I got to learn. I at one point could play the first 11 Rush albums front to back.
Wow, but on guitar.
On guitar.
So that's funny. I started with drums, and I could play all the drum parts from Rush, but I never got into the guitar stuff.
I wanted to start with drums.
Yeah.
That was actually my first thing, but my brother was a drummer. My older brother was a drummer.
Mine too.
And when I said I wanted to get a drum set, my parents said, "No way, we're not doing that again."
Okay.
As soon as you can have a guitar.
So Doug and I are musically twins, as you guys can tell here.
So I never really learned to play drums. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah. Ditto.
But yeah, so I got into the whole prog rock thing in high school. Yes, Rush, all that kind of stuff, but still total metalhead all the way through. And then, as we do, we started getting into, that was a big jazz fusion era.
Mm-hmm.
We all started listening to a lot of that stuff, got into and those kinds of things. Went to college, took a couple of years of college in the jazz program. Or, sorry, no, that was actually a classical program that I was in. But still playing in jazz bands and whatnot. Spent my early 20s in rock bands trying to become a rock star. Mm-hmm. That, of course, shockingly didn't work. As it usually doesn't for most people. Yeah. And then I actually went through a bit of a period in my 20s, which I call the dark ages, where I wasn't really playing a lot. Okay. I got a real job and did that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. What was that real job?
I did several things, but I wanted to be an electrician for a few years. And then I was also in a really crappy relationship. Which didn't really allow me the freedom to do what I wanted to do. Then that ended, and the job ended, and I just went, I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm going to start playing guitar again. And that's kind of when I discovered what they were calling at the time New Age music. So the instrumental guitar stuff with some techno beats kind of thing on the background, and I actually I wrote a whole album of that stuff.
Oh wow. Can we find that anywhere?
No.
In his garage.
Not that very first one. No, it's still rough. But so this is a really interesting story. Okay, this is going to go off on another tangent, but that's okay. What happened was, just 2 years before that, I discovered Michael Hedges.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And I actually did a bunch of that stuff too. So I was doing like this instrumental steel string alternate tuning kind of thing, and I've got a whole album of that, which is out there somewhere. It's called 9 Days Later.
9 Days Later. Doug Towle.
Yeah. So I think I may have to re-upload that soon because we just found some copies of it in the house here.
That was very cool. I'd love to check that out.
Yeah. So I started playing again. I started going out, just doing some coffee shop gigs, doing that kind of stuff. And then what happened is, this is really interesting, is I was still flailing around trying to figure out what to do with my life. And at the time, of course, internet was becoming really big and all this stuff, and there's all kinds of computer things going on. So I thought I'd become a computer nerd of some sort, get into like web programming or things like that, which I never really got to doing. Because what happened was, I met a web designer who was working for a chain of coffee stores doing their websites. Okay?
Do we know this chain?
No.
Okay.
That's the funny part of the story. You're skipping to the end.
Okay.
No, so and at the time, it was a thing. This was when the coffee store, of course, Starbucks had their record label. They were selling CDs.
I remember that.
Yeah. So this guy came up with the idea, well, we should do an album that we can sell in our stores. And he came across me and said, you should put an album together. And I thought, cool, great. And for whatever reason, coffee and drinking music means Latin. I don't know why. They just wanted a Latin feel to it, right? They wanted that sort of Spanishy kind of cafe vibe. Yeah. So I went, sure, I can do that. Yeah. What the heck? I was listening to that kind of stuff, some of the Nouveau Flamenco stuff that was around at the time. This is very late 90s, like 99. Okay. And so I said, sure. I went off. I had my little home studio, nothing like what I had now, but it was, you know, I had my computer and a couple of speakers and a microphone of some sort. And I had a cheap $100 Yamaha nylon string guitar.
As you do.
And I wrote and recorded an entire album of this coffee drinking Nouveau Flamenco stuff.
Now, did you have any prior experience to Nouveau Flamenco before doing this album?
Other than just listening to it, no, not really.
So you just dove right in.
I just kind of dove right in head first.
So
But the cool thing was, is it came. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but it just came easy to me.
Wow. Well, you also had, you mentioned you had the classical training.
Yeah.
So had you been taught all the typical intricacies of finger style playing on classical
absolutely.
guitar?
I've been doing a lot of finger style playing, but what I hadn't been doing is the more flamenco-y stuff, right? So that whole right hand thing was very new, and that took a little bit of effort to get that going. That takes a lot of practice, as you know.
Yeah.
It takes years to get that going. I'm still working on it. But so, you know, I did this whole album, and I programmed all the drums, all the keys, all the bass and stuff, and played this guitar, this cheap guitar, the whole album, and quite frankly, I was really happy with it. And then, so I went to deliver it to the coffee shop guys, and I phoned the guy, emailed the guy, and I got no response. And I finally got a little fed up, so I went down to the head office, which was not too far from where I lived.
Okay.
And I get to the front door, and I look inside, and there's nobody in there.
There's nobody in there. Wow. So they just completely went out of business?
Yeah, well, I drove down the street to where I knew there was a location, an actual retail location, and that was all boarded up.
Wow.
So the whole chain, in the time that it took me to record the album, the whole chain went under.
Oh, man.
So
did you get paid for doing that at all? No, so nothing.
No, the whole thing was on spec, and they were gonna press it, and we were gonna split the dough, right? Which was a great deal.
Yeah.
It was a great deal. I was so excited about it.
Except they needed to stay in business.
Except they needed to stay in business, which they did. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain on that.
Wow.
Right? So they went out of business. So I had this album that I was really happy with. I really enjoyed playing the stuff. So I called up a couple buddies of mine and said, "Hey, you want to put a band together doing this stuff?" The guys sent me from college. Yeah. Found a rhythm guitar player and put together this little quartet and just started out doing coffee shops.
Wow, fun.
And that's been it. That was it. It just got, never looked back, and just kept going and going and going. Got a couple of regular gigs at a couple of restaurants in the area, and before I knew it, I was gigging every weekend doing this stuff. And then I pressed the CD myself. Yeah. Just literally at home. Wow. On my computer, and you know, bought my little jewel cases from the office store. Yeah. Printed my own covers. They look like crap, but it's still a great album, and just started selling those like crazy. You know, I print 100 copies and sell them out, and then have to print 100 more. Then went off, and it's like, this is working. So we just kept doing it, and you know, 6 albums later.
Wow, 6 albums later. So tell everybody here what you're up to today, because you mentioned you've got the Santana band, you've got the Eric Clapton band, but you're also doing Nouveau Flamenco. So tell everybody what else you're up to.
Well, we had to make some pivots. You know, the reality was that the whole instrumental Nouveau Flamenco thing was my main gig for 15 years. I did it straight. Wow. That's all I did, and did really well with it. I've always been completely independent. Never had a record deal. Had a couple small distribution deals, but never anything like that. Never had a real manager or anything like that. And literally just selling CDs, basically out of the front of my car. Wow. But did quite well. At that. You know, I mean, we could sell a lot of CDs, and because you know, I always recorded at home, pressed them myself, so I owned everything. Amazing. So I kept all the money. You know, it's all a CD, and I didn't know all the money was mine.
That's something that my viewers are really interested in, and those of you who are interested in going into music for a music career are probably wondering, can you make music your livelihood, like solely music?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think anyone who's doing it full time will tell you that you can't do it with just one thing these days. You need multiple income streams. Multiple income streams. So give me an example. Well, I teach, I perform, session work, that kind of stuff. You're far more into like the placement stuff and the composing and stuff, all those kinds of things. It's you know, the online income streams are a good resource, although I still have to work on that. Get more of that going. Yeah. My journey is, like I said, like we did so much in the way of just hard sales. Yeah. And the thing is, the gigs were never, I shouldn't say never, but there's a lot of gigs that are just, they're not spectacular gigs. They're not, high profile. But I would go into a farmer's market on a Sunday morning, play for 3 hours, and sell 100 CDs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you're getting income not just from performing for your performance fee,
Yeah.
but merch is adding so much more on top of what
Merch,
you're making.
merch was huge.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that's no longer the case.
CD wise, right?
CD wise, right? You don't sell CDs like
Right.
you used to. I still have boxes of them.
Unless
in
you're
the corner.
selling them as coasters or frisbees.
I've got boxes of them in the corner there. I don't know what to do with. So we had to make a pivot. I kind of saw the writing on the wall several years ago. Just like when streaming started to take over, and just I really was watching my numbers, and my sales were just starting to tank.
Yeah.
So we had to make some decisions and expand the business a little bit, and that's how we sort of got started doing the tributes.
Yeah.
And that was partly a matter of business. It was also partly a matter of I just kind of missed playing in a rock band.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play loud music again, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It'd been 15 years since I'd really played in a rock band, and I wanted to do that. And I thought, well, what goes well with this Nouveau Flamenco thing? Well, Santana.
Yeah.
It's Latin. It's got the vibe. It's an easy transition.
Yeah.
And it was also, for me, it's an easy marketable thing because, everybody knows me as the Latin guitar player.
Yeah.
Well, now you're doing Santana. Well, of course you are.
Yeah, and it helps you're a fan of Santana.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The music's great.
Yeah.
The other thing is, too, with the Santana stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I chose that, is because I still get to improvise.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I'm not locked into anything.
No.
The show is very open and it's different every time. I like that. That's me as a performer. So that's what got us into that. And that kind of took off.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was doing both, doing the Nouveau Flamenco thing, doing the Santana thing. And again, we were just sort of sitting around one day thinking about, how can we expand on this? How can we make the business a little bigger? It's like, can we come up with a double bill idea? What other guitar player goes for Santana? Well, Clapton. So, what the heck? So we started putting together that. And I'll admit, with those things, it's not like I was a Clapton fanatic or fiend of any kind. I didn't, of course, we all know a bunch of Clapton. We've learned a bunch of it over the years, but it's not like I was, a complete Clapton head. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into it, the more I was like, this stuff's cool. Yeah. This is fun to play. Yeah. Right? So, for me, it was expanding my palette a little bit, too. And then, learning to sing. Being the Clapton guy, right? Learning how to front the band and all that. That was a whole other ball of wax.
So you're just constantly stretching yourself, not only artistically, but in terms of business.
Always.
You're trying to see, how can I improve the business? And,
always.
But there's a wonderful consequence, or consequence is perhaps the wrong word, but the
happenstance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It stretches you creatively.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. I mean, anybody who wants to get into this, you have to think of it as a small business. Yeah. You have to.
So
there's no question.
We've got time for maybe 2 more questions. My next question is a threefold. If you could give advice, because you've been teaching guitar, for about 25 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could give advice to, one piece of advice to a beginner guitarist, an intermediate guitarist, and an advanced guitarist, what would you give each 3 of those categories?
Ooh, well, I mean, the advice I give to everybody is the same advice everybody gives to everybody, and I wish there was a better answer other than practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice,
practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
I tell all my students that, when you're starting out, even when you're a little more advanced, it's a very weird thing to do with your hands.
It is very weird.
And it's very difficult. I have this thing that I say to a lot of students, like if I pick up my guitar here and I play this lovely little G chord, right? Mm-hmm. And it sounds great, it looks great, everything's fine. But if I take the guitar away and my hand's doing that, I need to go to the hospital because I'm having a seizure. Yes. What is happening to my hand here?
This is a very good point, yeah.
Nothing else in my life makes my hand do this.
Nothing.
So playing the guitar is a very unique, interesting thing that is like nothing else you will ever do in your life. It's also the funnest and coolest thing you'll ever do.
It is a lot of fun.
It takes a while. It's a whole different motor skill.
Mm-hmm.
It is a whole different motor skill, so it takes time.
Okay.
And that's just it. And as far as the more advanced things go, I know this may be a controversial topic, but learn your theory. You know,
Thank you. Thank you for
learn
saying
your
that.
theory.
Learn your theory.
learn how music works. It's not that complicated.
No, and it's a lot of fun when you get into it.
And it's a lot of fun when you get into it. And the one thing when I get into with students, you know, really getting into theory, the cool thing is like it's all just math.
Yeah.
But it's really basic math.
Yeah.
But what's really cool is you're using basic math to manipulate people's emotions.
Yes, very well said. Science affecting emotion.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's very powerful.
Yes.
It's very addictive.
That's very well said.
Right? It can give you a bit of a god complex
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah. Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Right, because you know, I picked the right two chords, put them together, and all of a sudden, I've made you sad.
Yeah. How is that?
But it's so cool when you understand why and you understand how.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said, it's very powerful.
Wow. So everybody, this is the amazing Doug Towle. And so where can they find you online? Is there any place they can go?
Yeah, bigawesome.ca.
Bigawesome.ca if you want to know more.
Company.
That's your...
It's our production company. Or you can, DougTowle.com will take you there too.
DougTowle.com. Again, last name is spelled Towle. I'll put it down at the bottom. Doug, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is cool, man. This is my first time doing this, so I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Yeah, this is just super cool. So don't forget to subscribe and hit like and turn on notifications so that you're notified next time if we do another one of these videos. So thank you so much and have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.